or discuss that item. The next two items, real property negotiations, there was no reportable action. Council gave direction to the negotiators on both.
All right, thank you. So at this time, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance with Councilmember Bash, and then right after, we'll have our invocation with Pastor Sam. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Pastor Sam, if you'll go ahead and come up, please, for our invocation.
Before I pray, I would like to share from the Word of God that Jesus said, "But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, we coming to your presence for the beginning of the meeting. I pray for your presence all over the leaders. And I pray that the leaders here, we're coming from 2022 and the beginning of 2023. Bless them, Lord, with your anointing of the Holy Spirit, be moving on this place. Lord, I pray for the mayor, Robin Crunch, Mayor, Dad Hoffman, and all council members, city manager, new police chief at Riverside County, Lieutenant Richard Franczyk, and all the name I don't know, but it is you overseers all the meeting here and all the need of the city. Lord, I pray for your mercy and your grace to be on them, to be lead them, Lord, in the wisdom of God, and give them in the right way, and no favor, but in the will of God. Lord, I pray for the full protection of God over them. The enemy is coming to steal, kill, and destroy, but I pray, Lord, you say you're coming to give life and abundantly over the people. Lord, thank you, Lord. We give glory, your glory and your glory. Give back to you, Lord, in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. At this time, I would like to have Lieutenant Rowan come up to the podium. If my colleagues from council will come down to the podium as well, please.
Would you like me facing the front, or are we going to stand
All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight is our honor to recognize the work that Lieutenant Rowan has done for the city of Norco during his tenure here as our police chief in this wonderful community. Lieutenant has worked tirelessly to make sure that we are safe and that our community is protected. And so I'm going to give my colleagues a minute or two each to go ahead and say a few things as we wish the lieutenant well on his new assignment.
I just want to thank you so much for your service to our city, Lieutenant Rowan. From the time that I came into council, you've always been helpful. I've really appreciated your calm and your steady presence, meeting with you, hearing your perspective, hearing what our sheriffs do every day in their work, getting to ride along with them, you helping me out and getting that set up. Just really, really appreciate you and wish you nothing but the best, and you will definitely be missed. So.
Well, Justin, you've come a long way. I got to first work with Justin when I was with the Sheriff's Department. Excellent deputy, always have fun, always fun to work with. Never know what we're going to have and run into. So it's my pleasure that when I looked and I saw he was coming here as lieutenant, I saw another familiar face. So that was a good thing. So Justin, I know your career and how we go in the Sheriff's Department. It's like every 2 or 3 years you get rotated around to round out the deputy or the department. So, but it's good. I hope you have fun over there and what you're going to do. And I'm sure that your troops will like you, and we appreciate everything you did for us here. Appreciate it.
Well, buddy, this last year, as when I was mayor, you were a great help. And one of the things that I appreciated that you did so much with our set deputies, how you addressed the homeless situation, and just the efforts that you put into that were just very well received. Just been a good friend, and I'm going to miss you.
So I don't know how many people know this, but we always feel like, even going back to the old sheriff, we get the best of the best. And I think part of that is I like to think that we really treat our deputies well. I reiterate everything people have said, but what I'm most grateful for, truthfully, given what's happened the last 2 weeks, safely going to your next place.
So, Lieutenant Rowan, it's my honor to present to you this pin and applaud you for your service to the city of Norco. Thank you again for keeping us safe, and we wish you well on your next journey with the department.
Thank you, everybody. Can you guys hear me? All right. So, people throwing a lot of praise my way, but the truth is, I have the easiest job here, right? The deputies and the sergeants, they put the hard work in every day. They're the ones that are out there grinding out on the streets, doing the traffic control, the enforcement, handling the call. So I appreciate that, and I do the best I can, but I do want to say all that hard work is really coming from the deputies. They're the ones that make this place what it is. On a personal note, I can just say that I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 27 years, going on 28 years here pretty quick. I've worked all corners of this county, and there really is no better place in this county to work than Norco. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve the community, to work with the council and the staff. It's the best city staff and the best city council, honestly, that I've ever worked with. Hands down, it's more of a family and a friendship than it is a business relationship. So it is bittersweet for me to leave, but I have been through Norco 3 times in my career, so I am happy to be doing something different, and I'm not too far, so if anybody needs me, I'm just down at the Jurupa Valley Station, and I'm still serving the city just in the capacity of overseeing the Detective Bureau there. So I still have my fingers in the Norco pot here, so if you have something, feel free to give me a call. Thank you very much. Up front?
All right, next on our agenda, we have a presentation today from Western Municipal Water District. Oh, the introduction of our new chief. Yes, Captain Kohler, please come up. I was so excited about water.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, City staff, and of course, members of the community who are here tonight. I am very excited to introduce Lieutenant Franzik, but I just want to take a moment in light of the events of the last 2 weeks to reach out and just pass on a huge heartfelt thank you to the community of Norco. the support has been, it's been wonderful. And ultimately, with Deputy Isaiah Cordero having been a member of our Jurupa Valley family, which is very much connected to Norco, we're working through a tough time, but your support has been evident everywhere we go. Ultimately, the American Legion hosted an event for Deputy Cordero a couple of weekends ago, and I was there for a portion of the time, but I'm told there were nearly 2,500 people in attendance. So my hat's off to all of you, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much. I would certainly echo all the comments regarding Lieutenant Rowan. Although he and I had run into each other during our careers, we had never worked closely together, and it's definitely been my pleasure the time that we've had with him here in Norco, and I'm fortunate that I'm going to hang on to him at the Jurupa Valley Station. So thank you, Justin. Now, on to Rich Franzik. If you want to come on up here, Rich. Lieutenant Franzik began his career with the Sheriff's Department in 2008. He's worked a variety of assignments, notably holding every rank between deputy and lieutenant. And during that time, he was obviously worked patrol, the backbone of our whole operation, community policing. He was a longtime canine handler, field training officer, and ultimately was promoted to sergeant in 2017. During that time, he supervised a number of specialized units, including the gang investigation unit within our corrections division, the Moreno Valley field training program at our Moreno Valley station, the community behavior assessment team, which deals specifically with people who are either mentally ill or in some other form of crisis. So I'm very much looking forward to bringing his experience there here. There's certainly a place for it in all of our communities, and that's going to be a big benefit for Norco. And most recently, supervised the Investigations Bureau at Moreno Valley Station. So with that, welcome, Rich. Thank you very much. And now I think it's your opportunity to talk.
I'm excited to be here, and I keep telling my wife I'm very blessed to be acting chief in the city of Norco. Everybody that I've met in the past week or so, it's truly just genuine people, and I'm really here to help the community, help council, city management, all the department heads to be a resource and serve you in the community and to keep you safe and give you ideas. And again, truly I'm just blessed to be here, and I'm excited to work with everybody. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right, so now we're going to go on to our presentation. We have member Laura Ruffton and General Manager Craig Miller here to present the Solve the Water Crisis Coalition.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm so glad to hear that you're excited to learn about water. I'm going to be very brief because I know we have only a short time and Mr. Miller has a lot to share with you. So my name is Laura Roten. I am the Western Municipal Water District Division 4 Director, covering the cities of Jurupa Valley, Eastville, and Norco. We are very happy to be here tonight. I have left for you our landscape guide. Inside is my business card and a postcard about Solve the Water Crisis, which you'll hear about. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me. With that, I would like to turn it over to our GM, Craig Miller.
Greg. Thank you for having us. I really appreciate being here. So water's really interesting right now. The news is covered with water stories. We've been pushing for this for some time because water managers from across the state are concerned about the future of water in the state. So what I'm here to talk about is Solve the Water Crisis. I want to kind of blow through these slides. These are backgrounds on Western. So who is Western? We serve about 1 million people in Western Riverside County. We have partnerships with 14 agencies. We serve direct connections to about 100,000 people, and we're the metropolitan member agency. So any agencies within our service area that need imported water, they order it through us. We're the Met member agency, and we have a seat on their board. Here's our service area. We are established in 1954. We go from Eastvale all the way down to Temecula. We're served by a 5-member board of directors. Director Roten represents this division, Division 4. So let's get to Solve the Water Crisis. So what is the Solve Water Crisis Coalition? So this is a coalition that was put together by general managers of water agencies. And we felt, and this started from water managers sitting down having coffee saying, what are we going to do next summer when it's dry this winter? And all the managers that I talk to say the same thing. We're in trouble. And you don't hear that coming from water managers. We've made a whole history of operating water systems by saying we're prepared for the future. And now we're saying we have to change the future. So we're an education coalition because it's public money. It's all public agencies. So we're educating and highlighting the problem that this hasn't been a drought over the last several years. It's a water crisis. So we have to build the awareness of policymakers like yourself, business leaders, and sometimes other water agencies, but we really need to make serious investment in this state in our water systems. So this is Lake Oroville. If you order water right now, imported water, the water that goes to our direct customers, it's coming from Lake Oroville, Northern California, not the Colorado River. This is what Lake Oroville looked like before it started raining this winter. And the issue is that residents, business owners, policymakers like yourself do not understand the severity of California's ongoing water supply crisis. It doesn't make the news. But literally, the state water project was out of water the last 2 years. We're the 5th largest economy in the world as a state, and our state water system operated on a 5% allocation, hoping to survive the drought. That's not a good position for the biggest economy, one of the biggest economies in the world. So the state priorities were, this is what we kept hearing from the state, and this is one of the reasons why the coalition was formed. The state kept saying, well, we just need end user conservation, we'll be fine. And the reality is, you can run the numbers, we run the numbers, I know the numbers, that'll never work. We need much more than that. But the other thing that they've been challenging us with is we have more and more environmental hurdles and regulatory hurdles to get over. So they make it harder to move water across this state, harder to store water, and that is compounding the problem of our dry hydrology. The other thing that the state's been doing is shifting the burden of water supply to locals. So instead of operating the state water project, which is a state water project operated by the state, built in the 70s to benefit the entire state, they're saying, nah, maybe we're trying to get out of that business and we're going to move it to locals. So Norco, you develop your own water supplies, you'll be okay. How do you take away 4 million acre feet of water supply from the state and shift it to others? It's just not possible. And the note in the bottom is that Californians in the PPIC poll recognize that government's not doing enough. 70% of the people polled said government's not doing enough for water supply. So this is our world, urban water. So if you look at the losses that we have because of the state water project, it has the rights or the commitments to serve 4 million acre feet to the state. That's to ag, the Central Valley, Southern California. They're only serving, in the last year, they only served 200,000 out of 4 million. Southern California specifically, we have the rights through Metropolitan for 2 million acre feet. So we didn't get 1.9 million acre feet. They only served 100,000. That's a problem. In fact, part of Met's service area is ordering health and safety water from the state. So the state doesn't send enough water for them to meet their indoor water needs in areas on the west side of metropolitan service area. That's a problem. So, well, can we turn to the Colorado River? You've probably heard on the news, Colorado River, Lake Mead is in terrible condition. That's a federal project. It's operated by the Bureau of Reclamation. They've said you need to cut 2 million to 4 million acre feet out of the demands of the Colorado River. So problems on the state, you can't go to the Colorado River like we've done in the past in our history. So what are you going to do? So turn to the ocean and do ocean desal. I hear this all the time. Craig, how come you don't do ocean desal? Well, the managers always say it's expensive, a lot more expensive than pumping groundwater or buying water from Northern California. But the bigger problem we have now is Huntington Beach for 10 years has worked on an ocean desal project, and the state-appointed Coastal Commission turned that down, denied that permit 11-0 at the end of the summer. So now, which was our last resort probably of expensive water, we can't get that through the state either. So the state has also said, well, you should be more effective in your reclamation, recycling. You guys have talked about recycling. We're at the table with you at RCRA to talk about recycling. And this watershed in Santa Rosa watershed is fully recycled. The argument in this watershed is who gets recycled water first. But this watershed is fully recycled, so we're not really creating new water supply. So when you look at the numbers, you know, I have a group that we're working with. We think the state's about 20 million acre feet short of water supply. 20 million. That's to meet ag needs, environmental needs, urban needs, replenishing groundwater throughout the state. You look at the news and it's showing all this water running, you know, streams overflowing and running into the ocean. It's all going out the Golden Gate Bridge. That water needs to be stopped, and it needs to be stored for future uses. And that's what this coalition's all about. So what are we asking for? We're educating about we need to get to the state. We need more surface and groundwater storage. Number two, we have to be able to move water around the state. These environmental and regulatory issues that are stopping us from moving water. Today, the pumps that move water out of the Delta and move it into the State Water Project are operating at half capacity. And they're operating at half capacity because of environmental constraints, because of the Delta smelt. Very controversial issue, but it's significantly affecting the state's ability to move all this flood of water that Mother Nature has bestowed upon us, and it's just going out the Golden Gate Bridge for no beneficial use. So we need to change the regulatory environment so we can move water and we can predict when we're going to move water. Then the fourth point is the state and the feds have both provided water for local projects, things that Norco could access, that Western could access. We need those pots of money to continue to exist. We need to help develop our own local water supplies. So we need local money, but we need the state to invest big in new reservoirs and groundwater storage and conveyance. So here's the coalition. It was started with 26 water agencies. You see those at the top. We now, the big push has been in the supporter side. So we've asked cities, business entities, associations to become supporters. There's no cost. We just want you to we want your voice. We want you to advocate for change in the water system. We want to be able to use your logo. So this has grown from about 4 supporters to over 70. We probably have about 85 supporters now in the last 3 months. So you see the chambers on there and CMUA and lots of others. But the message is really ringing. This economy and this state needs water. And the state water project hasn't changed since 1970. So what's the rest of our state's economy and our population done since 1970? The state project's not keeping up with it. We need to invest. And we need to advocate to our legislators that this needs to be a top priority in Sacramento. So my closing slide, and I'd be happy to answer questions. Despite tremendous local investment, the state is not living up to its responsibility to evolve California's water system. Improvements are long overdue, and policies and priorities need to change so that that's a focus. So that's what we're doing. We're out. I'm going up to Sacramento tomorrow to push this even more. Very active. We're moving towards legislation that'll be run. That isn't written yet, but that's where we're going. So we'll certainly come back here when that's out, and we'll see report on that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Does council have?
Okay, take
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
Take
So,
over the meeting.
Councilman Bash, do you have a question?
It's not so much that I have a question. I'm very happy you're here today. I've been hearing about this at WRCOG and RCA and all those different
Very
places, so
supportive.
I'm really happy you got him here. It's astonishing what's happening. One of the things I would like to ask, just to give an example, I understand that the governor tried to put 2 pipelines through the Delta, but the environmentalists only let him put 1. So kind of hampered his efforts. So it's not exactly like legislature is totally, I mean, they know the problems, they just keep running into these you know, I'm all for the environment, but it's a real issue. And then what's the state of the Delta today? Do we still have the issue? I mean, years ago I took the tour. Do we still have the issue where the ocean, if there's ever a break in the Delta, we literally could lose a lot of our water system?
Yes. So clarify a little bit. So the governor isn't looking at putting 2 tunnels or 1 tunnel. There's a local supply sponsored project. So Metropolitan Water District took the lead in the development of the 2 tunnel project. The governor came out when he became governor and said, I don't think I like 2 tunnels. I think 1 tunnel would be better.
Oh, he did it.
He said 1 tunnel would be better.
Sorry.
That we had to go back to the drawing board. We had to redo all of the CEQA documents. It took about 4 years. They're out on the street right now to build 1 tunnel. So a big change, and it's taken 4 years to get back to where we were. So that project is hopefully still going to move forward. It's super important for the state. But nothing's changed in the Delta. There's still the Delta smelt and endangered fish is still a problem. The integrity of the levees is still a problem. They were pushed up a lot of times by farmers. And if you ever go to the Delta, if you drove down the levees, you see that the ocean water's up there and the ground's down here. And when those levees fail because of an earthquake or rodents or any other, ocean water pours right into those low-lying areas, and you'll have to somehow push the seawater back out to continue to move water through the Delta. So it is very perilous. That's why the tunnel project, very expensive, but we need to keep drinking water for urban and farm use out of the ocean.
And then it's my understanding that we can't conserve ourselves out of this. And then the other thing is, one of the things that's in danger is our we're sort of the breadbasket of the United States, and this is a real problem for our agricultural industry.
So the coalition is heavily populated with agricultural interests. This is one of the few times in my career where Northern California, the ag industry, Central California, and Southern California are all on the exact same page. We're all, in fact, I'm in Sacramento. I'm meeting with ag in Northern California tomorrow to start, working on the legislative solution. So we're all on the same page. We're all saying exactly the same thing. It's time for action.
So my hope is that we will join this coalition if council so chooses. So thank you very much. I'm really glad. Thank you, Lori, for getting here. And Laura, thank you.
No questions, just thank you for being here. And it is on our consent calendar to join the coalition and to support it. And I think just as all of us have seen with the prolonged drought and then this massive amount of rain that came in and the lack of being able to store that, that we need obviously many improvements. So appreciate your work and happy to support.
Good to see you again, and Laura. Good evening. This shouldn't come as a surprise. This problem's been in front of the state for years and years. And how can you keep from not just slapping them up the side of the head? And just open your eyes.
Violence is never a solution.
Well.
So I look at this like, I find it very frustrating. The water managers find it very frustrating. I think the coalition members find it frustrating that we're doing this. We feel it's a state obligation, but it hasn't moved. And so we're tired of waiting. And so we're going to go and try and move it. And but the dollars are huge. You're talking about, 30, 40, 50 billion dollars to get the state back where it needs to be. Where's that money going to come from? This has to be a 50-year goal, a 40-year goal. So it's a huge lift.
Well, and I appreciate all that you do with it. It's just that there just seems to be a lack of common sense in Sacramento with this. And I was reading an article on desal, and the state of Israel, I think, has 5 plants, I believe, and that they produce 20% more water than they're required, that they need. And it's just like, why can't we? Why can't we just think about it?
Israel produces about 40% of their water needs are met by natural rainfall. So all the rest, 60%, is coming from ocean desal.
Right.
But they control the ocean desal. The government controls it. So they develop the power right there on site. They have different requirements for ocean outfall. They have different requirements for the use of the water afterwards. So they have a lot more control, which we don't have. We don't have the system set up to really push ocean desal. But I would contend, though, that you look at what's happened in the last month in the hydrology, we can save, capture, store this water so much more efficiently at less cost and less energy demand. Ocean desal is a huge energy hog. So
Right.
let Mother Nature drop it and deliver it to the creeks and store it. It's a far better way to go. And I just personally feel like you need to exhaust all of those opportunities before you start going to ocean desal. But we may get there someday.
You know, and I appreciate it that, you know, education's a big part of it, but you have to develop the infrastructure at the same time. And I just believe with desal, it's just another tool in the toolbox.
And there is desal that's out there. For
Right.
certain areas, that's their only option right now.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Craig, for coming out here. Second time I've seen this slide presentation. I appreciate it. I sit on the OWA thing, and I look back, and for the voters, you guys have done your job. 2014, you voted Prop 1 to get these things running and fund it. And there was Prop 50 you voted on to fund it. Proposition 84, you voted on it to fund it. It hasn't been the voters that are reluctant to put it together. It's basically people in Sacramento are just not doing a job. I can't believe how long it took us to go through our Proposition 1 Round 2 funding, to pick the projects up, and knowing that those guys won't get their monies until 2024. The same thing we did on the first round of allocations out of Prop 1. They're just getting their funding now, and this is 2023, and that's almost 2 years since they got it. It is a slow process, and most of it's being hung up by the Department of Water Resources, and that's where it's got to hit. Sacramento's got to start saying, hey, you get the funding, we approve it, we're not stupid, get these projects done. So, but I appreciate the slide presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Craig.
All right. Thank you again for coming this evening. We appreciate your time. We'll go ahead and move into number 1 on the agenda, which is going to be our city council reports on regional boards. And we will be starting with Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman.
Oh, first. Been busy. One of the things I talk about is return of the Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting, followed by the I-15 Corridor Ad Hoc Advisory Committee meeting. And this goes back to the water thing. We're trying to complete projects, and unfortunately on the transportation thing, and it goes back to a lack of funding. Our Measure A that we use here in Riverside County just doesn't do those big projects. But we're being, today I went to a meeting with the mayor's meeting for Mayor Grunmeyer, and I tell you, they're cutting the transportation budgets again for the state, and we're going to be short. And we're looking at the I-15 corridor. The bottleneck, if you've driven it on I-15 south of Corona all the way down to Temecula. For us to get that funded through Measure A monies, it would take us over 30 years with a little bit of federal and state. So this is ridiculous that Sacramento and the feds aren't helping us with these, and they're just, it's a lack of funding for these major projects like that. So just to let you know. Riverside Transit Budget and Finance Committee meeting, I'm going to put that together with the team now, and the best thing we can do for that, Hemet, San Jacinto area is doing a new public transportation program called Micro, and it's Microtrans, and it's kind of like Uber or Lyft for a public bus. So once that pilot project gets on, they get the numbers back. Hopefully, we'll see it out in these areas. Part of our TNL meeting, we talked about the bus route in Corona called the Corona Cruiser. The good thing about the Cruiser, and just so you understand, if it wasn't for them, the low-income people and seniors wouldn't have any public transportation. They use that. That's almost 20% of their ridership right now is through that. So I'll give them kudos to the city of Corona for putting that together. Hopefully, when we get that project, pilot project on the micro gets finished in Hemet San Jacinto, maybe they can put it out this way. LAFCO meeting, not much. And then we met the mayor's meeting. I already shed a little light on that. We actually, all the mayors on the meeting, homelessness was the major topic for all of them. Some of them have done some things, others have not. And we're all waiting naturally on the budget constraints that are being put, is how much does the new budget from Governor Newsom going to be addressed to meet that. So, and thank you. Appreciate. Oh, and if you want to come out Thursday, and hopefully it's a nice day, they're going to finally break ground on the 7191 interchange there. I grew up here, and I can tell you that's going to be a lot better than driving through that skinny tunnel off the 71 to get on the 91 once it's done. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Alleman.
Yes, on January 9th, I attended the Cal Cities Riverside County Division meeting, and at that meeting, the guest speaker was the California Secretary of Natural Resources, who spoke about water. So it was good to hear what that department is doing and advocating for, and then they also spent a significant amount of time discussing the Salton Sea, which is of, very quite a bit of importance, especially for our most eastern part of Riverside County, the Coachella Valley.
Thank you. Councilmember Bash.
I think the most important two things that I attended was I attended the Cal Cities training session on January 12th, policy committee training session. Very, very interesting. I'm working very closely right now with the city manager. I sit on the taxation one, and we're hoping to get some of the money from Amazon. I don't know if people know, but there was a law change which is funding cities to millions and millions of dollars. We get the trucks, they get the money. So I'm trying to flip that around if I can. And then the other thing, and I'm going to let the mayor kind of talk about this, last night Norco had a huge win. And I was really, really proud of all of our council members. Everybody was involved. I've been doing this for 12 years. And it's a coalition that was formed. And again, I'll let her talk about it at the Riverside City Council. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Newton.
Thank you. January 5th, attended the special board of directors meeting for the Chino Basin Desalter Authority. And then last week, along with the mayor, we met on our subcommittee for the ongoing barn project. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Just a kind of quick recap of the council meeting with the city of Riverside yesterday. I think it's important to highlight that the council voted to go ahead and commit to having a working group to look at the potential of undergrounding the transmission lines and looking for funding. The most critical thing that I think kind of pushed this forward is the huge kind of coalition or bipartisan group that said that yes, they wanted to help, and yes, they would do the work. So Congressman Calvert, Congressman Tucano, State Senator Roth, State Senator Ciarto, Assemblymember Asali, Assemblymember Cervantes, Supervisor Spiegel are just a few that are on the list. Norco has offered to be a partner with Riverside in helping to make this happen. There's no guarantees, but at the end of the day, this is the best possible solution because there's going to be a lot of great minds at the table to be able to figure out how to make this a win-win for everybody. We know, that Riverside wants power, Southern California Edison wants to complete the project, and I don't think there's any of us that disagree about the project. We just want it to be done right and a way that's fair for Riverside and Norco. So we're super excited about the working group, and we're just thankful that our colleagues over in Riverside voted the way they did last night to be able to move that forward. So definitely positive step for the city of Norco.
Add to that is that we really have to thank Assemblyman Bill Saley. He is actually one of the people that brokered this whole thing. He brought Chuck Conyers to the table, who was diametrically opposed to this. He put him in touch with different people. And then I also, Councilwoman Cervantes also connected Chuck to a whole bunch of different people that he needed to talk to. So we kind of have to give kudos to those two people.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move into the consent calendar. Are there any items to be pulled? I have Jay, Councilman Newton, and I, Councilmember Bash. Any other items? Are there? All right, any public comments?
I have no public comment for the consent items.
Motion to approve the rest.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the remaining items on the consent calendar. We'll go ahead and vote.
Please vote. Councilmember Bash,
I'm not getting anything.
and your vote? And motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll go ahead and move on to the items that have been pulled. So we'll start with 2I. Councilmember Bash?
I think we need to add a committee. I think we need to add the committee that will liaison with the Riverside City Council. And I would make the I mean, I would like to be on it, but I'm going to leave that to the mayor. But I think one person that really needs to be on it is Greg Newton, if he'll do it, because Greg, they're going to be talking about construction, and you've actually built these things. So if you have time, I think it would be very good. Okay? Yeah. I don't know anything about construction, though. That's the... All right. Well, I'll leave that to the mayor, but I do think that we need to have a committee put together of at least 2 council members. I know Lori's going to be very involved. I suspect Colin will be very involved. I'm hopefully Chad over here. But I think we need to add that committee. And I'm not sure, do we have to make can we do it now, or do we have to put it on an agenda? All right, well then I will leave it up to the mayor to make that selection.
All right, is there any other input or discussion from my colleagues?
I agree with Kevin. Kevin, I'm going to have you meet my son-in-law, who's a lineman and actually has done this. So he'll be your expertise, okay? And tell him not charge you.
Well, we need a second person, so don't all jump at once.
Do it with you, Kevin.
Oh, that's what I want. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Have the time on.
Agreed. You know, when this came up and they talked about the working group, you're obviously the point person. You've spent a lot of time and effort on this, and you have the most history on this project. So definitely having you on there is going to be critical. And so with that, I will move that we add the RTRP subcommittee with Councilmember Bash and Councilmember Newton. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We'll vote.
There it is. Almost.
And motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So then we'll go on to the next item that has been pulled, which will be item 2J. Councilmember Newton.
Thank you. Chad, I know you were preoccupied the last few days, so I didn't reach out to you on this item, but did have a couple of conversations with some other parties, and I was able to answer, or have answered, some of these questions. So this is just a couple little cleanups. When I first read this, it was one of those that struck me as, wow, this seems too good to be true. and hence I started having some questions. So on this agreement where we're going to, currently we have a take or pay with Arlington, right, on the Arlington Water, and this will remain as a take and pay. This rate of $1,100 per acre foot, do you think we would be able to take more if it's required, if we need to? Is there anything in this agreement that would allow us to do that and at the same rate?
The rate amounts, I guess I'll answer this way. We have not historically in the last 3 years taken 4,400 acre feet.
Right, just underneath.
And we're trying actually to not take more because it costs us more compared to our groundwater. So I've been trying for the last several years to ramp up our production, and we've done that the last 3 years, and we're trying to almost, double it in this next 2 years, so that we're more resilient on our own water, which is probably at least half, if not less expensive. Excuse me. So we could take more water. We had always an option to take more water. In this particular scenario, if we wanted to take more water than is currently being allocated as our share or our promise to take our portion, we would need to work with one of our other member or parties in this group to say, could we take X amount and see if they're willing to allow us to take that amount of water. The issue for us has been we have been inconsistently ability to take the water that Western would like to see taken from Arlington, because that's our primary project.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're trying to divest from it if we can. But again, it's an asset for them, and they're looking to make sure that they can make assets available region-wide and get the best use out of them. So they're packaging in their CDA along with the Arlington Water and saying, how can we produce it all and get a lower cost for everybody? And so that's why we're really interested in this agreement, to say if we all as parties can participate equally as we produce that water, and we already have an arrangement with ACSD internally to basically say if the reason I can't take water, they're willing to take our extra, so that we keep up the
right.
$1,100 per acre foot number impacted, because my desires to keep our water, use more of our groundwater, hurts us, and all of a sudden at the end of the year we didn't use the full 10,000 acre feet as planned. Could use more water, or we could take more water. We just have to work with the other agency, find out could we get to it. No requirement that these groups must take X and Y. You can't. We wanted to make it flexible.
All right. Then there's section 2 on page 73. This was just on wholesale water pricing, and price per acre foot will be determined by capital operating and maintenance, debt service, asset replacement, general and admin costs, on and on. But it doesn't address, and then it talks about an escalator of 4% on top of this. But it doesn't talk about when you reconcile. And since we had, CDAs all over this, like my thought was with CDA, we pay $1,137 per acre foot, okay? For the last few years, after we reconcile, whether it's grants, subsidies, or whatever, we've paid $890, $909, $872 per acre foot. Would those subsidies, grants, whatever, be considered in this section 2 wholesale water price? Before we get banged this minimum 4%. Okay.
You got to keep in mind what you're referring to is like to CDA. That's a JPA group where you
right.
reconcile together. These are really Western's own assets that they have management over. Set up is is they're guaranteeing us a price, whether because they don't really know in the end how much their cost will be, because this something they're flying out for the first time, creating this wholesale with these two sources, finding their costs, and saying, okay, turns out it's more than $1,100 per acre foot, even though we all produce 10,000 acre feet, they're eating that cost, and they've gained. After that, we reevaluate it. They'll reevaluate it and say, okay, not working out as we thought. There's higher costs than we anticipated. At this point, we're getting for this first 2 years a guaranteed price. Produce that 10,000 acre feet as a group. That's our price, no matter how it turns out. So if it turns out it is cheaper, we get the benefit of that. Us, for Norco, that's better than our price right now. Our current price that we're paying water for.
Right.
And so
Right.
for
And that's
us,
what I'm
it's-
saying, that we're saving $68 an acre foot.
That's my understanding, is it's not intended to be a look back once you're done, do all your costs, and then you adjust the water, and if you get a credit, or for us, like at Arlington, that's what we do now, it is their asset, but we've agreed to pay all Arlington. So they often say, we didn't produce the feed, they look at all the costs. Hey, actual cost of water was not $1,168, it turned out. Actually was efficiency because we produced more. In that regard, because we have that relationship, person for Arlington have a current contract for that, we have that dynamic where we do get different scenario, and it has not been discussed to do any retroactive look to say, hey, what were your actual costs?
I still have some questions, but I'm going to go with this, that this is a short-term agreement, and I'll be more than satisfied that we will have a cost savings to our residents and the city of approximately $300,000 on this. And then that come down at the end of this agreement, then we can look at it much closer. See if it's worthwhile moving forward. Okay. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it.
Does it make you nervous talking about water with a guy sitting behind you?
Text going on.
Yeah. How'd he do?
Very well.
Good.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
All right, moving on to section number 4, our public comments. The city clerk will read the cards for us.
Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. The governmental body shall not discuss or act relative to any general public comments. Our first speaker card is Maddie Marks Noble and Gonzalez Sano.
Hello, everyone, council members, council staff, and members of residents of Norco. We are district representatives for Senator Kelly Ciarto. So I'm Maddie, and this is Gazal. And we're just happy to be serving your community, and we look forward to seeing you at many events, including the groundbreaking tomorrow, which I'll be at. So, thank you. Thanks.
All right, thank you and welcome to Norco.
Our next speaker is Wayne Brown from RCTC.
I'm always back here, right? Always bringing good news. We have another 55-hour closure coming up. It will be the weekend of January 27th. It'll be westbound on the 91 from the I-15 down to Lincoln Avenue. We're going to combine two projects into this closure so that we eliminate one 55-hour closure. We're going to be doing work on the ELC on the express lane connector. We're going to be removing, which is a good thing, a portion of the support structures that were used to help build the bridge over the 91 westbound roadway. So that's one chunk of that false work being taken down. We will do another 55-hour closure probably in May to remove the rest of the false work. And you're going to, at that point in time, you're going to see a brand new bridge being completed. The other work that we're going to be doing is on the westbound 91 in a project called the 91 Refresh. And this is where we are repaving some large chunks of the 91 westbound. We're going to be finishing up this project. The area between the Main Street and Lincoln Avenue has a history of settling. It was built over the top of a riverbed many years ago. And when it gets wet over time, it starts to sink. So you've seen asphalt in that area. So now we're going to replace all that. We're repaving it. We're just going to be wrapping up this project that we've been doing about 6 months. So those two projects we're going to combine into one 55-hour closure starting Friday night, January 27th, God willing, the weather holds, and it will go through to Monday morning at 5 a.m. I have provided everybody one of our flyers, and there are additional flyers out in the foyer. You will also be getting electronic versions of that same flyer. But on the back side of this flyer, you will also see the regional detour routes, which we are trying to put out to the general public to utilize those rather than trying to figure out their way through the city of Corona to get back to the westbound 91. If you happen to be down on the main street and trying to get back to westbound 91, either take Railroad or take River to get over to Lincoln Avenue, and if Lincoln Avenue is clogged up, which it probably will get, go on to Maple or even to Auto Center to get back into the westbound 91. My biggest help would be to folks to go north, get to the 60, go 60 west, grab the 71 or the 57 down. Again, we will be putting out huge amounts of information. Radio spots are going to be running, social media posts. We will be doing a briefing to all of the first responders and PIOs. Next week, we'll be doing a media briefing. We know what a 55-hour closure on the westbound 91 creates, and we are going to try and do our best to make sure everybody realizes to either stay home, stay away, or find another way around it. But again, Ted, we are getting there. Councilman, we are getting there. Hopefully, by the end of 2023, we will see a finished connector from the 91 to the 15 express lanes.
Miss Mayor, make sure that our public works guy knows, because last time we had the closures, there were people wandering around, just didn't know where to go. And I know you guys have the staff out there, but it's just, I don't know if Chad had very little information on it, and I know the Sheriff's Department did too. Yeah. But the more we can get to them, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Which is why we're doing that.
Absolutely.
The briefing, and I've been talking with your assistant. He's been really helpful. We were helpful on figuring out whether First Street was a backup. We don't talk about First Street as an access. We just have it in the back pocket in case we need to run traffic down First Street to Lincoln. Again, and we found out, unfortunately, things like Waive and those, we've talked to them trying to tell them, please do not send people through the city streets just because the freeway is backed up. And they say, well, we can't do anything about it. It's just our algorithms to do that. Not helpful. But we will continue. Chad, if you have any questions, give me a holler. Yep. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Norval Williams.
Good evening, council and staff. You guys are all amazing. With living here for 36 years, I have seen many great improvements to our city, but I was astounded to see one of the latest this last Saturday. During one of the rain downpours, I drove on Hillside from 6th to 5th. I was amazed that the road was obviously wet, but no lakes. I had the opportunity to see our new flood control in operation. Wow, just wow. Not only were the accoutrements addressed in a most attractive manner, but no excessive water was on the roadway. My kudos to our Public Works Department. While appreciating that the cost for this particular improvement is in the neighborhood of $2 million a mile and necessitates working in conjunction with Riverside Flood Control's schedule, it all takes time. But I encourage our residents to take the time to observe this wonderful and very needed improvement. And also additionally, I would like to thank City Engineer Sam for his volunteering to come out and dig trenches this last weekend in the rain. So that's really cool too. I love my town. My second item tonight is a very needed pay raise for our city council. My research has shown that you folks are paid about $3.17 an hour. Are you kidding me? In view of all of the responsibilities you all have, that is ridiculous. In fact, I would like to hire some of you to work for my little company. I would save a ton in employee expense. I know that you are reimbursed for expenses, and I also know that not all of you apply for those reimbursements. I believe that the last increase was in the early 2000s. It's time for an increase, you guys. And quit being shy about it. Just handle it. The citizens won't shoot you for $3.17 an hour. Thank you, guys.
I have no further comments, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We will go ahead and move on to number 5 on the agenda, which is our discussion and action items. Our first one is appointments to the Streets, Trails, Utilities Commission for one unscheduled vacancy. So our city clerk will start us off.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Glad to be here tonight. For those of you don't know me, I'm Dana Roa, the City Clerk. And tonight I'll be presenting our appointments for the Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission. Currently we have one vacancy that is an unscheduled vacancy with the term ending June 2023 to replace our member Gary Schoen. The requirements for application is per our Municipal Code 2.22040 is to be a citizen of the United States, be a permanent resident of the city, be at least 18 years of age, take and file with the city clerk the oath required by section 36507 of the California Government Code, and no felony convictions. Our recruitment, the public notice was released by the city clerk's office on December 20th, 2022. Almost said 3. Application deadline was January 4th, 2023 at 6 p.m. 8 applications were received and provided to City Council for review. Very excited to see the 8 applications. I'm seeing more applications coming in for our recruitments. I think it's with a great help with our social media posts that we're doing, more outreach that we're doing, and just getting our faces out there at the events that we've had lately. The process is the applicants will have up to 3 minutes to speak on their behalf. If you haven't filled out a speaker card yet and you're an applicant, please do so. They're right outside the door, and you can drop it to me over here on the right. Following the speakers, the mayor and city council will deliberate and make appointment by ballot to the commission seat. A majority vote of 3 is required. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Questions of staff? All right. Very
Okay,
good.
our first applicant to speak is Linda Chavez Gaffney.
Good evening, Mayor Grunmeyer, Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman, City Council,
city staff and residents of Norco and what I understood was Commission Row over there. I am Linda Chavez Gaffney, and I am interested in the position of a chair on the Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission. I was very honored last week to attend my first meeting and was very honored to also have the ability to speak. I appreciated conversation I had with the Director of Public Works. A little bit about me. I actually am a public utility employee worker. Thank you for your son's services alignment. It's a very dangerous job. As a public utility worker, I am very familiar with street franchise agreements and how public utilities work in municipalities. I actually lead a team at Southern California Edison. I would like to comment on the fact that I was not able to attend last night, but I did watch, and it was very stimulating to see parties agree. I'm used to seeing parties not agree, especially when the utility I work for is concerned. I am very big on public service. I served 10 years with the Orange County Ronald McDonald House in a volunteer position. I am a certified CPR instructor with the American Red Cross. And on behalf of Southern California Edison, I serve on a public safety power shutoff where I am the face of the company to the community. I serve in different communities, so the chances of you seeing me here in Norco are very rare. But I enjoy being the face. I enjoy meeting community members. I enjoy hearing what people have to say, and I enjoy looking for solutions to problems. So I would be honored if you would consider my application. Thank you so much.
Our next applicant is Audrey Pavia.
Hey everybody. I wanted to throw my hat in the ring to serve on the Street Trails and Utilities Commission because I think that my knowledge and experience would be a valuable asset to the city. I've lived in Norco since 2003, and I own 2 horses that I ride regularly on the trails here in Norco. I'm also the Region 2 president of the North American Trail Ride Conference, which is a national competitive trail organization, and I compete with my 2 horses throughout Southern California. I'm also the author of 7 books about horses, including Horses for Dummies, Horseback Riding for Dummies, and Trail Riding, a Complete Guide. I'm a frequent contributor to Horse Illustrated magazine and several other equine publications. I'm a member of the Norco Horsemen's Association and have participated in volunteer activities all over town over the 20 years I've lived here. This has included working at the Norco Fair, participating in trail cleanup, volunteering at the NHA events, and writing for the NHA newsletter. And I've also served as an NHA trail boss for Area 8. I appreciate you considering me for the Street Trails and Utilities Commission, and I would like to work hard to help improve the safety and enjoyment of the trails and streets in Norco. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next applicant is Aaron Williams.
Hi, my name is Aaron Williams. My wife, daughter, and I are relatively new residents to Norco. We moved here in 2021. I was the one born in the Inland Empire, but my wife was the horse girl. So 2 years ago, when she was 8 months pregnant with our first baby, she talked me into adopting a free horse. And 2 years later, I'm here asking to serve on the Streets and Trails Commission. In 2021, with a new horse and a new baby, we picked up our family and we bought a house in this rural community. This is very intentional for us. We chose Norco as the place to raise our daughter. This is where we want her to grow up, in a small town with good people, with animals all around, and horse trails throughout the city, everywhere in the city. We want her to grow up in Horsetown, USA. Since we've moved to Norco, we've had the good fortune to meet some wonderful people riding on these trails who we are happy to call friends. When we were at the State of the City and had the opportunity to connect with members of different associations, such as the Norco Horse Week and the Norco Fair, something that resonated with us was a concern that multiple people shared surrounding the generational gap in volunteers and involvement within the city. Our friends on the trail and the other people we've met who are actively making Norco what it is are getting older, and we've heard time and time again, who will take care of Norco once we can't do it anymore? I love what Norco is, and I chose Norco for my daughter. I love and appreciate what the longtime residents who've come before me have made and sustained here, but to make sure my daughter will get to live in the Norco that I love, I have to do my part to preserve it for her. I've been attending some Streets and Trails Commission meetings over the last few months, and although the horse trails were my first and greatest focus, I've listened to a vast array of topics both in these commission meetings and some conversations I've had with members of the commission and how they impact Norco residents. Some of those topics have been horse trail maintenance, horse fence replacement, backyard trail repair, but then also something that came up was Public Works making sure a resident in a wheelchair could access their mailbox with the new fencing. Bike lanes were a topic that had come up that I didn't expect. Speed limits around the city and policies and laws surrounding our limitations to control those speed limits. And then water billing and not having tiered water billing in Norco versus most, if not all, of the neighboring communities having tiered water billing. Although I'm passionate about trails, I've seen that there are so many more needs that are being addressed by this commission that impact every resident every day. I'd like to answer the call and step up to represent our rural lifestyle, make sure the needs of all of our residents are met, and for me, but most importantly for my daughter and the generations to come, keep Norco, Norco. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next applicant is Jerry Burke.
Evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Jerry Burke. My wife and I have lived in Norco for not quite 30 years, but it has been a long time, and we raised our daughter here, and we love Norco, and as the previous speaker said, we want to keep Norco. My background is I'm a registered civil engineer, began my career in public works at Alhambra at the Los Angeles County Department of Public Works, worked on the private side for a while, then was city engineer for the city of Glendora, and now I'm director of engineering for the Inland Empire Utilities Agency, which is a sister agency, if you will, to Western Municipal Water District. My wife and I love Norco, saw the opportunity to share my experience on this commission and wanted to come put my name out there for your consideration. I would agree with our city clerk, though. I think it's a great thing when we have a small town like this, yet we have 8 people that are willing to step up for one vacant position through the end of just, that's a great thing. We have a great town here, and I'm willing to do my part to keep it that way. Thank you for your consideration.
Our next applicant, Barbara Everett.
Evening. Nice to meet you all. I have been a city resident for 31 years here. My kids went to Town and Country Day School, so back in the day. My background is I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for 40 years. I've worked at Riverside Community for 22, and now I'm at Loma Linda. My perspective is quality assurance, regulatory compliance, epidemiology background. So my perspective is I want to do and give back to my community that I have lived in for so long. So just putting my hat in the ring. Thank you very much.
And the last applicant tonight is Sam Tavalotti.
Friends, neighbors, it's been a good meeting. I'll keep it short and sweet. First, let me start by thanking and congratulating you guys working on that, getting that working group put together with Riverside. Those of us who've been following it, like the mayor said, it's not perfect, but it's not ideal, but it's the best we can get, and we're grateful for it. Water, excellent. I'm not an expert, but maybe more dams, less bullet trains. I don't know what I know. So, but as far as the streets and trails, even though you guys have known me for years, I've always gone on about our infrastructure. Roads have been very important to me. I know that's one unifying factor amongst all of you. There's very little light between you guys. Everybody cares about our streets, our trails, our infrastructure. It's just getting there. It's having the resources to spread it out through the city. We're just the way Norco is, due to our way we're set up, our city charter, our half-acre lots. We're not quite as like Eastville or Corona, but I know we're trying to do our best. I know you guys are working to do your best, and I've seen it get better every single year. Some people think we're still stuck in the 70s, but it's not true. They've come a long way since then. Our floods are getting better. We just had a huge downpour, and it's a lot better this year than it was last year. And kudos to Public Works. They're out there much better, better response times every single year. I ride these trails probably 4 or 5 days a week. Robin, I've given all your donkeys names because I don't know them, but I see them like clockwork every time I go out there. So yeah, I'm on every single street. I always look for a new trail or something. There's a lot of stuff I see, and it would be really rewarding for me to be able to help out and give you guys guidance, working with the commission to make that's needed for our city. 20 years in the military, I've worked with the Red Horse units, I've worked with the civil engineers, FEMA, and they say necessity is the mother of all inventions. I can tell you, in an emergency, roads get built, but we don't have it. We kind of have a mindset of if things aren't broke, they don't need fixing. But I know that we strive to improve, and I can tell you, being on these roads 5 days a week on all these trails, I can see a lot of areas that need improvement, and it would be very rewarding for me to volunteer my time to give back to the community and help the city council. Thank you.
And with no further applicant comments, I will go ahead and distribute the commission appointment voting ballot. It has listed all 8 names: Aaron Williams, Audrey Pavia, Barbara Everett, James Boggs, Jerry Burke, Linda Chavez Gaffney, Matthew Jefferson, and Sam Tavolati. And like I said, it will take a vote of 3, the majority vote, to appoint a member to the seat.
Madam Mayor, could I say something? Once again, the residents have made it really easy to pick a choice. And I just want to remind you all, I mean, just me as an example, it took a lot. I served 10 years on the Park and Rec Commission, and I was passed over 3 times. Just keep coming back. There's lots of stuff to do. A lot of times, I mean, right now, there's not one person that didn't speak that I couldn't put on this commission. But for me, I have to slot it. We've got other people, and for me, I'm trying to slot it. But please, if you don't get selected tonight, please come back. Please keep trying. Every one of you is stellar. So I want to thank you for coming out and throwing your hat in the ring and maybe taking the slings and arrows. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council, for your votes. And tonight, being appointed with the majority vote, Audrey Pavia.
All right, congratulations. And I would just like to echo what Councilmember Bash said. The last few recruitments have just presented a stellar group of candidates for the commission. So please, as we have openings, please continue to apply and be involved in the good work that the city's doing. So thank you all that applied. and we look forward to continued successful recruitments.
Yes, and Audrey, we will be reaching out to you this week to touch base with you on what you need to do next. Thank you.
All right, moving on in the agenda, we're going to move to the public hearings now. The first one is going to be item 6A, re-envisioning the Historic Preservation Commission, and I'll call upon the city clerk for that report.
It's the Dana Show. Good evening again, Mayor and City Council and community. I have been very excited to be given the opportunity to support the Historic Commission and the Heritage Room and work with them and the room to make it stronger and useful to the community. With a decline in applicants recently for the recruitment, it was needed to take a closer look at the commission and make it a bit more attractive to our qualified applicants that I know are out there. In November, I took the ordinance to the Historic Preservation Commission to review, and a few are the following recommendations that have been made. Change the meeting hours to 6 p.m. to accommodate working schedules. We not only want to be mindful of those that are working the 9 to 5, but also in the city of Norco, we want to be mindful of those that need to take care of their properties during the day and the evenings, and also taking care of their animals. So changing the hours from 4 p.m. for the meeting to 6, we think would be more attractive to our applicants also. The next is changing the name to update the language in our ordinance to include the agricultural heritage of Norco. Our goal is to protect our heritage of not only the equestrian lifestyle, but also at the agricultural lifestyle. This will only strengthen our stance that we are here to protect our history and our need for large lots. Doing some research on agriculture commissions, I found cities were in the same position as Norco, fighting to protect their heritage. The following I found that was written really resonated with me when I was doing this research, and I think it will also with you. The purpose of including the heritage of agriculture to your commission is to protect agriculture lands, preserve rural character, provide a voice for farmers, and encourage agriculture-based businesses. This will support our history as well as foster new agriculture in our city. Currently, as presented to you in the red line municipal code that I gave you, and also in the ordinance, the proposed name would be Historic Preservation and Agricultural Heritage Commission. That was recommended by the Historic Preservation Commission also. And also the recommendation to include stakeholders that do not live within the city in future commission recruitments to attract a larger pool of qualified applicants, such as business owners, teachers at the high schools and colleges, those who have a stake in our lifestyle of the city, not only residents, but those who work or own businesses here too. So today what's before you is adopting Ordinance 1092 to update the municipal code to include agriculture, change the name, and also the hours of the commission. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those for you.
Does council have any questions for the city clerk? Councilman Hoffman?
Thank you. Dana, I have just one quick one. When you talked about changing the residency, and I don't have a problem with the business owners, is there, and pardon me if I didn't get through, is there any years of, if somebody just a brand new business owner within the first month or so and they apply because they want to be on this thing, is there any time limit on that or any type
what I think what helps is in the municipal code, let me read that to you, how it will read. They not only be a resident, but they need to also follow the qualifications that are already in the municipal code for being able to seek a seat on the Heritage Commission. Let me give you a couple examples just of the wording that we have is individuals qualified by education or experience with specialization in agricultural, biological science, or a closely related field. That's just the agriculture portion that we put in, but also they would need to have credentials and in a result of their education or training or knowledge in not only the agriculture side, it would also be qualified to analyze and interpret agricultural, architectural, and site planning information, including but not limited to licensed landscape architects and urban planners, engineer, and licensed general contractors, or education there too. So that I think will help with not just saying stakeholder, you live here, you can be on this commission. You also have to follow the previous guidelines and requirements that are required to sit on the Heritage Commission.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Little one.
Oh no.
On page 116.
Of the, I'm sorry, I'm on the.
Yeah, this is on all the revisions.
Oh, correct. Okay.
On D. We changed everyone to city clerk from economic development director except that one.
Okay, I will
Is
go
that
back through. It should be city clerk. Because we no longer.
still keeps you in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
99 out of 100.
I just make sure that I'm testing you. That's
Okay,
what it
that we read it?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
is. Thank you.
No, I don't have any questions, but when it comes back for discussion, there were 2 language pieces that I wanted to bring up to see if the council is amenable to change.
Now when it comes back to discussion.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. So then we will go ahead and move ahead with opening the public hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing, and then we're going to let the city clerk run back over to the other part of her job. Do we have any cards?
Yes, we have one public speaker, Teresa Edwards.
All right, perfect.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Teresa Edwards, Vice Chair of the Historic Commission, and chair tonight. She's the chair. So I told you we'd try to be here when our stuff came up at the City Council meeting, so here we are. We did. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay, so we did have at our last meeting. We did discuss the rethinking of the Historic Commission. We changed the name and the times that we're going to meet, which are good. And I'm really happy that you're so excited about working with us, because it shows and it's kind of cute. So anyway, what I want to say tonight is that I think hopefully this is just the beginning of rethinking the Historic Commission. I think there's a lot more to address. And right here I have my Commissioner's Handbook that I received in 2017 when I first got on this commission. And it has never really been revised. This is the first time that anything has been changed in this. And the name of the commission is the only thing that's been changed as of tonight. It's still the same from 2017. There are 18 items here that are listed as the duties of the Historic Preservation Commission. 17 of these are all to aid the historic consultant, who is Bill Wilkman, and to fulfill the CLG requirements for the state. So when he has issues come up in the city, he brings them to us, and then we vote yes or no. That's pretty much what we do as a commission right now, and that's what we've been doing for the last 5 years. Last 5 years, we've also been working on the Heritage Room. This needs to reflect the work that we've been doing in the Heritage Room for the last 6 years. So we need, what I would like to see is I would like to see some type of a workshop to where we could actually add to this and in regards to the Heritage Room, the duties of the Heritage Room. And all of these duties that are listed here, the 1K, the Historic Preservation Commission shall work for the continuing education of the citizens of Norco about the heritage of the city and its cultural resources. That's really the one thing that we're not really doing very well at, and I think the Heritage Room could fulfill that. And you know, I'm a big museum person, so that's kind of like my long-range vision, but I know it's going to take time. There's some other things that that I'd like to discuss in a workshop, and that's the topic of heritage tourism and Preserve America City designation, which it puts you on a list for tourists. And I guess I'm gonna make those points. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So I'll close the public hearing, and we'll go ahead and bring it back to council for discussion and action.
Council, I did miss something, sorry, on my presentation. Also, the member on the revision of the ordinance and the municipal code that I send you, it was asked that I revise the membership to add 2 more to make it a membership of 7, to include 2 members that would specialize in the agriculture side. And I've included that in the wording also under, where is it, item E, it's 2.26040 requirements for membership. It does state that we will ask for 2 that will specialize in the agriculture side, since we're adding that purview to the commission also now.
All right, perfect. So bringing it back for discussion, Kevin?
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. A lot of the things that Teresa talked about are actually in the works. As a lot of you know, our historic overlay is dependent on the fact that we're a certified local government. Greg was around. He was part of that, actually. I think when we did, weren't you chair of the LNCF at that time? Yeah. And it was really hard. It took us 2.5 years. But the requirement was to create a commission from that certified local government, which is the way it works is your federal standards are governed through your state historic preservation officer, and at that time it was Wayne Donaldson. And it was really hard to get, and we were really excited when we finally got it. The byproduct of the Norconian battle was we were able to legitimately put together this historic district which exempts us from some of the more draconian housing laws. That said, what that means is that your commission is required to have 2 people on it that go with very strict standards, and we have actually not been, we're kind of fudging. We just put somebody on there, and you can kind of fudge if somebody has developed a knack for doing research, which both Teresa and Carolyn, I don't know if you've been there, but they're working all the time. They're becoming very good researchers, so you can kind of fudge. But the reality is part of this revision and part of the reason we're expanding it, is we really need to make sure that we have those 2 people that, we used to have Diana Stiller, we've had Sue Bacon. These are all people that meet those qualifications. On the other side of that, we need to have, in my opinion, and I was hoping Robin would jump in on this, we need to have very defined and set the agricultural side. I know a lot of people sort of go, oh, it's farm to fork or whatever. Well, you know, some of this may seem a little bit out there, this statistic, but when you stop and think that 120 million Chinese are starving right now and they're buying up our farmland, 30% of the children in India don't have enough food. If you don't think it's not going to come here, and I have great worries about that. So the truth of the matter is we have the water, the resources to actually create true farms in the city of Norco. So I'm simply trying to say this is something that's actually very, very important, not just boutique farm to fork, but it's something that literally, I mean, I actually have my own eggs. I'm not paying $9 for a dozen of eggs. So it's really, really important. But I think those 2 positions have to be set. They have to be determined. Then the reason I expanded it to 7 is there's other skill sets that need to happen. I don't know if you know this, and I know council's probably aware of it. Lori here and Dana we've got a guy named James Yellis, who is really helping us. He is the assistant curator for the United States Army. Yes. And he put on a presentation for us and all the stuff to move our collection into the modern world. And so it's not going to cost all that much money, but it means a dramatic push forward for our collection. The collection is actually the proof of why we're a historic district. The reason the other three, and again, this is just my opinion, as we're re-envisioning this, when the commission first started, we were really advocating for the Norconian and for the Navy base, and we were putting on events. One of the things we're lacking right now on our commission is somebody with the time who advocates. We also need that person that advocates not just for the historic end, but also for the agricultural end. You need people with a skill set that say, look at all this great stuff, how do we get this out to the public? You also need somebody on that commission with James Yellis's skill set, that literally he knows how to get that stuff out to the public. And then the other thing is it's a very different commission than some of the other commissions. When you have a commission like the Park and Rec, or you have a commission like Planning, which has a legal end of it, you're voting on stuff. This commission that we're forming actually is overseeing stuff. So they literally are doing a lot of hands-on things. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but we literally, for a city our size, nobody has a collection of the stuff that we have. It's actually remarkable what we have. But there's thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces that people need to literally be cataloging, and especially as we move to the new system, we are going to need people to work. In terms of re-envisioning this, we're going to have to maybe be hardcore. We're going to have to maybe look at, like Park and Rec, we always had subcommittees. We may end up having to really look at finding somebody who's a doctor, a doctor of history over at the college. Those are the kind of people that we have to have, because this commission, one, is going to defend our historic overlay. They're going to be the ones that are going to be doing it. They're going to be advising us. And then two, they're also the people that are going to be advocating to try to help people to utilize their large lots for agricultural purposes. So this is a really important commission in my view. I'm really excited by the direction that Lori and Dana, I'm with you, Teresa. Dana's excited. I love talking to her. It's a lot of fun. And so I hope that we will really support this. I do have two questions. One, have we, in the new changes, have we defined well enough the requirements for the two people that have to adhere to the federal codes? And have we defined well enough the two people that have to sit on the agricultural side? Because I believe they need to be set in stone. Those two positions need to be set. And I just want to make sure that we've defined those well enough. Maybe it's just enough to say, okay, it has to be, because I think Bill Wolkman sent us the actual wording. Do we need to maybe include that, or just reference that's exactly what it is in the event that maybe it changes? And then I was also hoping that our mayor, who has a tiny bit of experience in the agricultural world, I was kind of hoping that she might be able to come up with a criteria so that we know exactly what, honestly, my comment was if we could replicate two little Robin Grunmeyers to put on the commission. So somebody with those kinds of credentials, and I think that's important. And that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So on page 121 of the ordinance, just there's some antiquated language that I wanted to see about changing. In 2.26060, removal from office, it refers to the secretary of the commission. If the council is amenable to changing that to city clerk or designee, we don't necessarily have a formal secretary as we did back in the day. And then for the organization 2.26.070, the commission shall elect a chair and a vice chair instead of a chairman and a vice chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, and then for the discussion purpose, my preference is not to have a 7-person commission, but I completely understand why we're doing and making that change, so that, because right now our commission is full and we want to add these agriculture pieces. Absolutely supportive of that. I think this is a really great idea and has a lot of value for our community. Kevin mentioned something that I wanted to ask. Is it the intention to hold 2 seats that can only be filled by agriculture, or was our intention just to open it up such that people with agriculture experience could serve? just in kind of asking, because my understanding was the
Well,
latter
the
and not the former.
The idea is that 2 positions would be set in stone for agriculture, 2 positions would be set in stone for to cover the CLG certification. Then you would have 3. They could be 3 agriculture. They could be. What you're hoping is to find a skill set that will enable that commission to function. It could be 2. You've got 3 people that can be swing.
Right.
In the
but
wording.
When we first initially had said we were going to keep it at 5, but then the number was changed because we wanted to make sure there was space for agricultural people to come on board now with the name change. So my question I hear that that's the preference of Councilmember Bash, but just wanted to see if that was what other people understood it to be. I had understood it that it would just be an option, but if we're making it mandatory, just to make that clear for myself and the public to understand.
And under the municipal code, with the changes that we made, it does say at least 2 of the members will have the professional experience in the heritage or historical heritage side, and then at least 2 of the members will have a professional education experience in the ag, and with the either specialization in agriculture, biological science, or a closely related field. So I think if you're reading them and we want to follow what the new municipal code would be, those 2 positions would need to fill the 2 ag positions. That's just my interpretation of where we're at today.
I would concur. So, Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman, any questions? Okay. So, just under discussion, I think it's important that if we're going to change the name and lead towards the ag, that we do have 2 ag positions on there. And for me, I agree with what Councilmember Bash said, but for me, it's really about protecting Norco and protecting our lifestyle. And again, having that historical piece and then having the ag piece is going to be really critical as we move forward and making sure that we're protecting what we've created. And there's been so many things the last few years, and Kevin alluded to it a little bit when we look at COVID and people starting to garden and wanting to have be able to sustain and raise their own food sources, whether that was livestock or vegetables or those types of things. And then we get to today where there's like the egg shortage, and you're hearing on the news like people having a few chickens in the backyard and those types of things. I really do think it's important that we try and build up this culture of sustainability and being able to provide, and really I see it as us being this gem in the middle of this huge urban Southern California where we are able to take care of ourselves and take care of each other as needed, and this commission's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Like Kevin said, it's going to have to be a commission of workers that are going to be boots on the ground and getting the work done. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and as we're always talking about, putting more tools in our toolbox to protect what we all hold so dear here. I think this is going to be another one of those things that can help with that. So, any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. And I think this is where
Please vote.
There we go.
And motion passes unanimous. Thank you, Council.
was this where? Yeah. Colin, do you have to do any of your lawyer stuff now?
Why don't we do some lawyer stuff now so we don't have to do it on the second read. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco, California, repealing ordinance numbers 902, 928, and 984, and to amend Norco Municipal Code Chapter 226, Historic Preservation Commission, Code Amendment 2023-01.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 6B. Alma, are you ready?
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, agenda item 6B is Ordinance 1093 for the approval of Zone Code Amendment 2022-05. And what this is an amendment, proposed amendment to the Norco Municipal Code with respect to the accessory dwelling units and amending the code to be consistent or to be compliant with state law. As the City Council is aware, back in December of 2022, the City Council adopted an urgency ordinance. The intent of that urgency ordinance was to be consistent with state law with respect to laws pertaining to ADUs. The Zone Code Amendment is being presented to you at this time because it wouldn't have been in effect in time to be effective to address the current state laws. So what happened is that we had to adopt the urgency ordinance, and that went into effect immediately. Ordinances that weren't compliance with state law by January 1st would become null and void, hence we had to adopt the urgency ordinance. The intent of the Zone Code Amendment is basically to codify the contents of the urgency ordinance and to also make any additional changes as deemed necessary. So this Zone Code Amendment was presented to our Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did recommend approval with one minor change to the definitions for public transit. The Planning Commission wanted to make sure to close any loopholes that could be found in the definition of transit to try to avoid the provision for parking for an ADU. And what they did is the definition for public transit to be amended to specifically state that the private ride shares or scooter drop-offs are not included in the definition of public transit. The Planning Commission did recommend approval with that provision. And the ordinance that is before you includes, basically in a nutshell, the contents of the urgency ordinance and the recommendation by the Planning Commission. And with that, I will conclude and answer any questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Does council have any questions of staff? Kevin?
And no offense, Colin. Did Erica look at this? Did she review this?
Originally.
She did? So she had eyes, only because
Yeah.
she's our housing person. No offense.
None taken. I do have a comment on the ordinance.
Yeah, no, they both looked at the original, and I think Alma just picked up that language to put in the final.
All right.
Correct.
Great.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Okay.
Appreciate all your work, Alma. On page 130, item B, we made a change. This is all on the heights of these detached buildings. We changed it from 16 to 18, right, in red. But then when you go to page 133, B, number 1, detached ADU shall not exceed 16 feet in height. So, and then of course, then
Yes, the
I
height-
know when you get near a transit corridor, then it jumps to 20. So where am I missing this?
It stays at 16. It stays unless there's conditions that warrant them to go up to 18, and that was spelled out in the section B.
Okay,
So-
but it still stays at
Yes.
16.
Unless when an ADU is located within half mile of a major transit stop, and it goes, and a detached ADU that is on a lot with a single family or multi-family dwelling may be up to 18. So there's certain conditions that have to be met to warrant the 18-foot height. If not, it stays at 16
Okay.
feet.
Yeah, and I won't beat it. I'm in disagreement on the roof pitch that, like if the existing house is a certain pitch, that you'll allow that ADU to become taller or wider to match the same pitch. That theory didn't work very well with me. But moving on this, on page 133, this could be a Colin thing, wall and fence requirement. So, if you build an ADU, you can build an accessory building, you can build it, this says closer than 5 foot, so you can build to 4 foot of the property line, right? But we've always had these issues that, let's say it's a common fence, right? And one side's animal keeping, and then your neighbor builds a ADU 4 foot to that fence. Is this still who takes responsibility of that fence? Does it still remain a civil matter? Or is there any condition if, let's say you didn't have a fence, you're going to condition that person that builds the ADU to put up a fence on the property line, right?
If it's closer than 35 feet to the animal keeping area, but one thing to keep in mind that it would be trying to think here, let me how to phrase this. So in essence, the person building the ADU so the question that Greg that you're asking, just so I understand, is in our ordinance in the A1 zone, it says that you can't keep animals closer than 35 feet from existing dwelling unless there's a solid wall. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
But I was okay today.
Yes.
And now you're coming along and you're going to build an ADU 4 foot from my property line. I'm not paying for that.
So you're correct.
And I'm not moving my animals either.
No, it would be the person. Yes, you are correct. The person that's building the ADU, if they want that privacy or that distance, they would be responsible for building the wall. Absolutely. So in other words, they wouldn't say, hey, I make the claim, hey, your animals are being kept closer than 35 feet.
Right.
Yeah. So, yes, I understand your question now. So it would be the owner of the ADU that would be responsible for that.
I mean,
I'm sorry, Greg. So what you're saying is let's say before the ADU, you're 35 feet away, but as soon as you build the ADU, what's to stop the person to say, well, wait a minute,
right.
My house is here now, you have to move your horses farther away. That's what you're saying. So what's the
question?
What's the answer?
Well, I know what my answer is. No.
Well, I know what it is for me. Yeah.
So.
Yes. So if it would be if the again if the builder of the ADU or the person living in the ADU would make that claim, it would be their responsibility to put up the fence.
Okay. I mean, I have heartburn on this whole thing, but and I just want to make sure I'm clear on this one also. This is on page 134, 19. And this is on animal. This is where I got a little confused, Alma. Animal area required. I know, like on a half acre, 5 units, 576 square foot. But within this, you can encroach into your animal keeping area up to 800 square feet to accommodate an ADU? Or how
Okay, so
okay.
this is existing from this particular number 19 is not changing. That's been in existence in our municipal
right.
code for some time. So it's the same thing. If you're not able to accommodate a minimum of 8,000 square foot ADU,
800 feet.
800, no,
right.
A minimum 800 square foot ADU to where you can't put it in the property to meet all the other requirements, it would be allowed to encroach the minimum amount necessary to accommodate at least an 800 square foot ADU. So that's the same concept as if the council will recall that we talked about building in the front yard. It's not allowed, however, there's nowhere else in the property to put it, and it has to encroach a little bit into the front yard to accommodate a minimum of 800 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be allowed. Same concept with the open animal keeping area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. So going back to the principle that every lot in Norco is different,
correct.
Right? That you could lose up to 800 square foot of animal keeping to provide for an ADU,
Potentially?
potentially.
Is that, would that happen? More than likely not. But I understand where you're
Okay.
getting, and you are correct.
I really do appreciate all the work you put into this. Thank you. That's all right for now. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, almost staying on the same page, same chat, the same number. You're sitting here and the animal area required. And when you say a little bit encroachment, your little bit may be different than Greg's little bit, Colin's little bit, Lauren. It's different. We should, and I don't know if legally we can do that. If you have a percentage, or at least have something written down, how many is a little bit. Because I don't like that. It's too interpretive. When you tell me, well, you can encroach on there. But my problem with that whole encroachment thing is, and where we allow them to do that, is this is something that came up when we were doing accessory buildings and stuff like that. Is when you put these ADUs in and you're saying, well, we don't have a PACA, so you don't have a defined, so we have the AKA instead. One thing we always fought, especially when I'm playing business, was the ability to access that. Our ADUs have to have access somehow to the back.
That's good.
I can tell you right now, if you have a animal keeping area in the back, you got to have access the same as you do the ADUs. So are we going to encroach on that access to that? Are we blocking it with this? Because if we block it, and they got to call NARD out, they got to call the fire out, how do we get there? How do we get that horse out? This came back and was the house on 5th or 4th in Valley View. Remember the gentleman that wanted to put his animal keeping area behind his barn, and he had 5 feet. That was it. That was his access to there. How do we get our equipment in there? That was it. This is what I'm getting at is we need to clarify a little bit on this when we say we're going to go into the AKA and where we're going to have it. How do you have access into that? We have to prevent that from being built on so that what we need at least 10 feet and we don't shrink it down to 5 feet. Oh, because our code didn't define it, and Les Collin says we can't do that, but you got to have access to it. I mean, we don't allow that in the hills. You got to have the access. We don't allow people building covers over the driveways so they can get to the back. But there's nothing in this that says that. And so I would somehow know we got to define what that little bit is that you're talking about, and how do we clear that, keep that clear access to the back of that AKA.
Again, provision for access to the, what in this case is the AKA, could be worded into the municipal code. However, keep in mind that again, if it's, as long as if ADU is not it cannot fit anywhere else in the on the property, we would have to at least allow a minimum 800 square foot ADU, and it could potentially encroach into the access leading to the PACA. And I don't know if Colin wants to jump in. Am I interpreting that correctly?
No, you are, and this doesn't make the law any better, but the law also has a provision that says that if you can't put an 800 square foot ADU in the backyard, it can go into the front yard setback. Nobody wants that to happen. There are many ways to get to an 800 square foot ADU. You don't have to have a single story ADU. We can probably engineer some different ways to get 800 feet, even if we have to let it go up a bit to keep it out of the PACA. And I'm sure planning to look at those options. The way that Sacramento wrote the law was that you have these minimum things that you can impose on these ADUs. And if we impose any more than that, we risk the discretion they gave us, which is very minimal. We risk losing that minimal discretion. any ordinance that we pass that is more strict than what the state has told us we can do risks voiding our whole ordinance. Then we're stuck with what the state has, which is even worse than what we're allowed to put into place. Planning has done remarkable at doing everything you could to regulate within what the state gave us. You look at this ADU law, provisions that say that you can build an ADU in a front yard are appalling. You know, it's a law written in Sacramento for people in San Francisco, applied to cities like Norco. But I think there's ways that we can get around building in the PACA, especially with the lot size of Norco. We just have to have some flexibility in maybe allowing an ADU to go a little bit higher if we have to have a variance because of a PACA being a unique topography or something like that, to try to get done what the council wants to get done, preserve the PACA, and keep ADUs out of the front yard.
And if I can add, Mayor, on this number 19, which is referring to lots that don't have a PACA, right? So we're already on lots, a minority of lots in Norco. That last phrase, it talks about the encroachment shall be allowed to encroach to the minimum extent possible. I think what that's doing is giving your staff and planning commission the authority to press that ADU applicant to that minimum extent possible, right? So we're going to be working with them on their design. As Councilmember Newton noted, all of the lots are different, but we will be working with them on the design so they're encroaching only to that minimum extent possible. That's something that we'll determine as a city on that case-by-case basis.
If I can add just, and these are still done over the counter approvals.
Well,
So they don't even go to planning commission.
They don't go to planning commission, but they are routed to all the different departments as a building permit. It's handled as a building permit. It goes to fire, planning comes to us, engineering, and of course building division.
And I got nothing against anybody on the staff currently now, but as all cities goes and these things go in there, staff changes.
Correct.
And hopefully it'll never happen, but someone on that staff doesn't understand the importance of an AKA or that animal keeping area and approves that, and next thing you know, there is no access back there to that property because of the placement of the A. That's what bothers me, is that you have it's not going to a planning commission that's made to look at that. I would hope people on the staff, as we progress, that is in there. That's why I wanted to just make sure we protect. Otherwise, why are we doing this historical overlay if we can't even protect the fact that we're allowing people to block any agricultural or animal keeping area we have in the back? Okay, thank you.
Not to drill this in, but not only half-acre lots, but we have so many non-conforming lots. We have quarter-acre lots that are zoned A120 that, and let's say in that example, you're entitled to have one animal unit, 576 square foot, right? But they can build an 800 square foot ADU. It just completely wipes out the animal keeping. And it just goes back to all our lots are different. They aren't, you know, rectangular half acres. So I have a question for Colin. 20 years ago, we voted in a charter to protect animal keeping. Does the charter help us at all?
Charter says that there must be a supermajority vote to change any provisions in the certain animal keeping chapters. We're not, I don't believe we're changing any of that here. So
no, I'm not looking at this being, well, not the vote. I would consider this a charter issue, this vote.
Even if it was a charter issue, I think it would just require a 4/5 vote. I don't think.
Yeah, and I'm fine on that, but it's like, is there any strength in our charter to say, no, we don't have to go by these rules?
Right.
Yeah.
The ADU laws apply to charter cities. They've declared it a statewide concern, and that's how the state, with a quick sentence, overrides charters. And I apologize. I want to have some good news for you, some better news. It's just we're dealing with a state that has said that they're going to make it as difficult as possible for cities to not allow ADUs.
Well, and I'll agree, and excuse me, Mayor, I know it should be under discussion. Here a while ago, Councilmember Bash and I had a conversation with Assemblymember Cervantes. We brought up the 4-foot setback in the animal keeping in Norco and the difficulty in access and all those impacts. And her reply to both Kevin and I was, wow, we didn't think about that. Too bad. One size fits all.
Be fair to Assemblywoman Cervantes. She kind of said that, but she actually tried. She actually, I mean, she did go back.
She said, Kevin.
And Senator Roth also tried. Senator Roth, we in a way never got back to him on that because I think Robin and I were talking to him.
Right.
And we never got back to him. The problem is once the legislation is passed, it's very difficult to change it. But you're right, they didn't think of it, and it's primarily because Scott Wiener lives in a really crappy area and doesn't care where he puts the houses and thinks the entire state of California looks like that. They think they're going to solve the housing crisis, but they're not. And it's just we're caught by the, it's a difficult situation. I do wish we could do something about the setbacks, though. Maybe we need to reapproach that with Senator Suarto and Bill Lasaley. But to be fair, both Senator Roth and Sabrina, they really did try. And I'm on the other side of the aisle, so you kind of have to give them. They just couldn't change the legislation.
Mayor, Colin and I were just discussing the options here for the council tonight. So one alternative the council might consider to give us a little time to dig into these issues, what we could do is table this matter tonight. At the next meeting, bring back an extension of the urgency ordinance because that has a 45-day window. It's expiring. We could bring that back and do the urgency again next meeting. That would give Colin and Erica time to dig in and see what we could do to address this issue of the animal keeping and the PACAs in the ordinance. So that may be an option for you if you'd like to do that.
If I may, I think that's a great idea, but I think one of the angles we may be missing on the setbacks lies in our agricultural heritage. What if you have a cow that goes down? What if you have, the truth is we focus on horses, but when we start talking about food, and maybe that's the angle that we need to approach with Kelly and with Billy, and just try to find a way to get those setbacks done, because you've raised some really good points. I'm just as mad as you are, but we need to find ways to swim around the sharks.
I want to bring up a few other things if we're going to look at the agricultural aspect. There's equipment needs that are going to have to be accessible, and then when you bring animals in, not only do they go down, but harvesting processes and things like that, if they're going to be done on site, you need access for those as well, which a 4-foot setback would not allow for. So that means you're going to have to trailer off-site and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of different moving parts for that. So, Alma, I did have a question. So there's more ADUs being built in Norco at this time. Has your staff seen any issues to date with access to the back or ADUs infringing on animal keeping areas at all?
Honestly, to this point, it's we've been pretty successful in making sure that the animal keeping area and the access PACA or animal keeping area are protected. So that we've been pretty successful in that area. So, as far as staff is concerned, we haven't really experienced any issues in making sure that those requirements are met.
And has there been, in your opinion, any reluctance from residents to meet those requirements, or do most seem like that makes sense because we're in Norco?
Correct. For the most part, they have been very receptive to that. So, I think they're happy that they at least get to build the ADU, and they're happy to comply with the requirements, especially with the animal keeping area.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from council?
It's not on the agenda, but at some point are we gonna, and staff right now, and great job by the way, are we going to be able to begin to look at the ADUs that are in existence and try to find a way to bring them in compliance? Is that something that you have? And I'm hesitant to even bring it up because I know we've kapowed you, but the biggest problem we have apparently is people don't want to legalize them because their property taxes go up.
So, yes, Councilmember Bash, we actually have this in our housing element as part of the work plan of the housing element. We've committed to look at doing an account of what we have, looking what we have to do to bring them, legalize them, and incentivize that. So that's actually in our near-term work plan. We actually have a proposal from a consultant to begin that work, and we're anticipating starting that immediately. So that's actually in our short-term plans as part of our housing element compliance.
Yeah, I was told by an assembly person up at the Cal Cities conference that one of the primary reasons, actual reasons behind the ADUs, because everybody knows we have granny units, we've had them forever, it's taxes. It's generation of taxes. And so.
All right, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
We need to
Oh, it
open
is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. It's only day 2 doing this.
Do we want to continue it and hold and open the public hearing at the
Or
continuation?
do we have to open
We
the
can do
public
that.
hearing tonight?
I think we should see if there are any requests to speak. If there are no requests to speak, we can go ahead and just continue the whole public hearing. If there are requests to speak tonight, we'll ask the speaker if they want to wait until the next one. If they don't, we'll let them speak because the Brown Act requires them to be able to speak at tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Colin.
I have no speaker cards, Mayor, on this item.
Recommend continuing the entire public hearing to the next meeting.
So I'll move to continue the public hearing to February 1st, 2023.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this item.
Please vote. And motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So moving on to agenda item number 7. Does city staff have any comments or announcements? No. City attorney?
No, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Our city manager? City council, any comments or announcements?
Something.
Councilmember Bash?
Can we just agendize a discussion on the 100th birthday? Just discuss it. So what we're gonna, we've been kicking around a couple of ideas, but just to talk about it, to find out if there's something we want to do.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. We'll vote.
I will call the vote on this one. Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Alleman?
Yes.
Councilmember Newton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman? Mayor
And-
Grummeyer?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank
And
you.
then lastly, on the 28th, I got the letter. I'm sorry I forgot it. We've been invited to the unveiling of the National Cemetery's Gold Star Family Monument, and that's the 28th at 11 a.m. at the National Cemetery. And I'll shoot that over to Lori, so everybody has it. But we've been invited to attend. That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, do you have anything? Greg? Anything? No? Ted? All right. I don't have anything either. So this evening, and I know Captain Kohler mentioned it earlier in this evening, but since our last city council meeting, we've lost 2 deputies that were a part of our RSO family. So this evening, I'd like to request that we adjourn the meeting in honor of Deputy Cordero and Deputy Calhoun and have a moment of silence, please. Meeting adjourned.